Welcome back to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie Selleck. Today we are in Connersville, Indiana, and we're here at the Elmhurst Mansion, and I'm joined by former worshipful master and current tour director, Alan Arnold. Alan, thank you for having us today.
Well, it's nice to have you here.
This place is absolutely beautiful. It is interesting as all get out. So I would love for you to just go ahead and get into it. Tell us about Elmhurst Mansion.
All right, I'll tell you that the home was a farm of 160 acres that Oliver Smith bought in 1831, and the home was built at three different periods of time. Now, originally, when he built it, it was 2 rooms down here, 2 rooms upstairs, and a wooden building on the back for a kitchen and a dining room, built in 1831. He bought 160 acres, paid $9 an acre for it in 3 installments and on a handshake. So no interest. So that tells you about the start of the building.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to know that the different periods of time. After that, the section at the beginning of the building over at the south end was added in 1881, and the rooms over above it and the rooms to the north of us here was 1881, and the rooms above that. And then the final addition was made in 1900 by Dr. Dom, and we'll talk about that just a little bit later.
Okay.
It's interesting. It was called the Old Elm Farm, and I didn't get this out earlier, but down in front, no longer there, was a huge elm tree. It was 16 feet in circumference and 95 feet high, and some Purdue people said that it was probably about 400 years old.
Wow.
It had to be cut down in 1935 due to deterioration, and the wood from it heated this home for an entire winter.
Oh my.
So we were quite interested. The second owner of the place was a man by the name of Caleb Smith. Mm-hmm. He was a member of our Congress, and he was appointed Secretary of Interior in President Lincoln's cabinet. And as we go along, there were several other owners in there, but then we get to the second section that was added, the one in 1881, and it was added by James Houston. And he spent $44,000 renovating it and adding the rooms on each end and up above. And he was friends with a man by the name of Benjamin Harrison. And he was actually his campaign director when he ran for president. And when he was elected, President Benjamin Harrison named James Houston Secretary of Treasury of the United States. So then we go on, and through the history of the building, at different times things were added, and the final section was added in 1900 by Dr. Dom. It was a sanatorium, the forerunner of a hospital. Mm-hmm. He was a well-known physician that came to this area from the St. Louis area, and he went to Europe, contracted some strange malady, came back here and died, and was buried in a cemetery, which there is a cemetery above the hill here to the west of the home. And that takes care of him. As far as then the building became the home of another couple who run a sanatorium for a while, and then a third person from Hazleton, Pennsylvania bought it and used it for a summer home. And then in 1908, it became a very exclusive, very expensive girls' school called the Elmhurst School for Girls. And the Ball family of Maine Jars and in here in Indiana.
Are those the people who gave us, not us, but this building, that water fountain?
Yes.
That is a sweet piece. That's one of my favorite things in the house.
Well, they gave that to the school when their 2 daughters went to school here, and it was a gift from the family, the Ball family. And as I said, their two daughters went to school here. It was a very fine school, had a fine educational facility. They also had other activities. The girls could go down to a large pond on a property, and there were rowboats there, and they could row around. The girls had a golf team, and they just
and the horseback riding too, right?
And
this was
horseback
really
riding
built for...
and around the property. And this property went from 160 acres to almost 800 acres, and then has gone back down naturally to its present state, where we now have 27 acres in the property. Mm-hmm. So then the addition, the building was purchased in 1939 by the Masons, and to have a lodge here. So it was Warren Lodge 15 here in Connersville, and also the Eastern Star 346 and the Yorkright bodies now are the ones that meet here and maintain this facility.
So are you telling me that today was a good day to wear my Daughters of the Eastern Star ring?
Absolutely.
I just happened to match all of your jewelry.
Yeah, right.
This is awesome.
That's fine.
Yeah, and so going through, we were in the parlor earlier where you said that, is that the Daughters of the Eastern Star in the ladies' lounge?
Yes, it's a lounge. When they have big meetings here, why the ladies will go up there and dress. They'll come in their normal clothes, put on formals and dress up there, and so it's convenient. Then they go hold their meeting in the lodge room building.
Now, who I assume these pool tables that I saw upstairs, I assume those are still in use. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's quite the story for how those pool tables got here, because they certainly didn't come through the front door.
Well, they couldn't come through the front door, nor could they make either one of the two stairs that goes upstairs. So they opened a window up there and hoisted them up one at a time, naturally, and put them in our game room up there. And after meetings, fellows used to gather up there, and they would play pool or sit down and play euchre and for a while after the meeting was over. And so it was just a nice place for a little bit of entertainment for them.
Now, the other place that I was thinking that has got to have some beautiful history to it was the library. And who's the library named after again?
Stephen Miller, who was Grand Master of Masons in the state of Indiana in 1956. So the library was named after him, and we got the picture, and his wife gave us his Masonic jewels, and they're displayed there on each side of his picture.
And that's the big picture upstairs that kind of follows your...
No,
no, that's not the one.
No,
okay.
You're talking about the other picture over there that it's interesting when we give tours. I tell people to take a look at it. And I said, now, when you look at that man's face, now it's a picture of one of the owners of the building at a time, but I said, when you look at his face, what's happening? And they said, oh, his eyes are following us.
As you're moving. Yeah, it's really, really strange and very cool. But yes, that did happen. And I wonder if we'll be able to.
And I tell people we got somebody watching it 24/7 now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. For sure, that painting makes it feel that way. So, and also there was a president. When you were talking, he and his wife would stay here as well. The room.
Benjamin Harrison.
Yes, when Harrison was here, he and his wife. And
Caroline, his first wife, they stayed in the room just adjoining the main lobby. Now was a bedroom in the home of James Houston.
Okay. But that name or the room then was named after them later, or not named after them? They just stayed there.
Yeah,
they just stayed there. Okay, all right. So what else? What else haven't I asked you yet, kind of specifically either about the structure, about the time periods, even about what you guys do here? Because one of the places that I thought was really cool that we got to go into is what was the sanatorium, what was the girls' school, and it's all cleared out now into one big room. What happens in that place now?
Well, that is what's called the lodge room, and the Masons hold their degrees in there. They hold their business meetings in there. And the same thing goes for Eastern Star. They hold their degrees in there and their business meetings, and Yorkright is the same too. So the three bodies have their regular monthly meetings there, and any scheduled meetings for work in the various degrees of entering those bodies.
So even some of the furniture in that room is just, I mean, there's oak, there's walnut, we saw cherry wood up on the second floor. Is there anything in that room, woodwork wise, that was either brought in special or that is of note?
In the lodge room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there is a little interesting story. There, some of the stations, when the Masons moved in here, there were 7 stations that they had for chairs when they only had 5. And so a man that lived here in Connersville made 2 more chairs, but he didn't want anybody to think that he was passing them off as the 5 antiques. But they, when you look at them, there's just a little difference. He made a little difference in the legs on them so that they would not be absolutely perfect matches for the antique ones.
Alan, there is this beautiful structure just right behind us. Can you talk about this fireplace?
Well, that was put in by James Houston, and that was in the 1881 where they added some rooms and so on, and he spent $44,000 renovating the property at that time. And this fireplace is red sandstone, and on one of the corners of it is a likeness of Indian Joe, who was a crippled Shawnee Indian who lived here, and when the Indians were sent to reservations, he stayed here, lived here, died, and was buried someplace on this property, and no one knows where. And on the other side was a little boy. His family were the people that took care of the barns and buildings and the farm work when it was a farm. And he was an inquisitive child, and he was watching the sculpture do the likeness of Indian Joe, and sculptor asked Mr. Houston's permission, and he carved the other boy, the little boy's picture on the other side. And I tell people that if you listen carefully, you might still hear him whistling.
Oh, really? Hey, that's a fun, even if it's a story, it's a fun story, but I bet maybe. Thank you for watching another episode of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie Selleck. Today we're in Connersville, Indiana, here at the Elmhurst Mansion. Alan Arnold, you were absolutely wonderful to interview today. Thank you so much. And remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.
Bye.